Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. I mean, everything is pretty crazy right now. You know it, I know it, a lot of other people know it, but a lot more people either don't know it or they know it and they seem to not care, which is worse than not knowing, in my opinion. If you know what's going on and you don't care, you are a special kind of person. You are the most apathetic, moronic person to ever walk the face of this earth, and you will deserve exactly what you get because you only deserve exactly what you are, honestly. It's it's not a very good thing what's going on right now. I mean, that there were people throughout the decades warning us about this time, warning us about these things coming to pass, warning us literally all the time. Many different people, and what did we do? We brushed them off. Tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, and then it morphed into what are they calling it now? Oh, far right Jan 6 Trump supporting racist something or whatever labels they give you. Whatever labels they would try to give me. Even though I am none of those things at all whatsoever. But a lot of people seem to be arguing also over things, well, just matters of no real importance. That's really what it is. Like, for instance, the trial that went on with those actors, the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard, yeah, her. People are talking about that a lot. That's all they want to talk about. Their minds cannot go that far, so they only take surface level things from Hollywood, of course, and Hollywood pushes this stuff out. That was literally meant to just keep you occupied while well, what were they doing during that time? Well, they sat down at the World Economic Forum and they had their whole, spiel going on there. They had their WHO treaty, which did not go through, thank God, probably because of the resistance that we gave it. And there were a lot of people that were watching it and trying to make sure that it wasn't going to go through, which is good. But we know how these people work. They'll back off for a little bit and then they'll try again at some point in the near future. A lot of stuff going on. It seems like they're in a rush. Like they're messing up a lot of things. And a lot more people are starting to catch it. But what's sad though is that a lot of these people that are claiming to be awake, they're still supporting Donald Trump. Like he's not part of what they have going on. This guy was reared in wealth. He literally is his name is an American. It's he's an American oligarch is what he is. This guy was never on your side, not one bit at all whatsoever. The point of his presidency was to not only just launch this whole thing, because don't forget, this whole thing started under Donald Trump. The reset, it literally started under Trump, March 13th, 2020, when he declared a national emergency in all 50 states because of the thing that happened. And Operation Warp Speed and all of that, just, things that we know, but they can't seem to get it through their heads. People are running around complaining about gas and this and that, but these things are, I can't even, because it really, really irritates me listening to these people talk about these things that don't really matter when it comes down to it, even though it sort of does, but it don't. Also, the point of the Trump presidency was, well, QAnon. Look how successful that disinformation campaign was. QAnon was so successful that now the stuff that we talk about here, stuff that I talk about, would get me labeled a whatever they call them, a QAnon supporter or whatever, which is not even true, of course, or anything you say like that. They've gotten it now to where they lumped so many different types of people into one large group. It's marginalization. It's what they wanted to do. All they need is a certain, just like any dictator throughout history, which is why they tested this in the 20th century during both world wars actually. They tested different types of dictatorships to see what was going to work and what wasn't. And all these different dictators did the exact same thing. All you need is a certain portion of the population to want to go against the other and support the government. That's all you need, and a little bit of fear, and they can get away with whatever they want, and they can do whatever they want. Now, since I'm done rambling for the first part, check this out. 1 billion, not million, billion people at risk of power blackouts as global grids stretched. Oh, okay. This is something that we haven't seen coming, right? I mean, we were only talking about blackouts, EMPs for the last couple years, but, you know. This summer, power grids worldwide won't produce enough electricity to meet the soaring demand, threatening more than 1 billion people with rolling blackouts. Grids are stretched thin by fossil fuel shortages, drought, and heat waves, commodity disruptions, and soaring prices due to the war in Ukraine and the failed green energy transition, where grid operators retired too many fossil fuel generation plants. Combine this all together, and a perfect storm blackouts threatens much of the northern hemisphere. Almost as if that's exactly what they wanted, right? The climate engineering, the destruction of, well, all the food plants and stuff, even though it really doesn't have anything to do with this. But they blame everything on the war in Ukraine. Oh, it's Russia and the war in Ukraine. Oh, it's this, it's that. And we know the whole time this is just part of the reset. This is part of the great reset into the New World Order with the New World Government, right? The power crisis affecting a large swath of the world and top economies could be less than a month away when summer begins on June 21st. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Regions that concern Bloomberg are Asia, Europe, and the U.S., where there's not enough power to go around when cooling demand is set to surge as households crank up their air conditions to escape the sweltering heat. Remember the test they did down in Texas? Where they had people sharing electricity? Right? They tell people, like, oh, you got to cut yours off, and we'll cut off this town, and we'll supply this town. Excuse me. Then we'll cut off this town and supply this town. And it's getting to a point to where the government is going to come in and they're going to take over they're going to take over the electric grid. They're going to nationalize it. Well, globalize it. That's what you want to call it. They are not messing around, and they've made that very clear. They've made that very, very clear. But also, think about the fact that at the top here of this paragraph, it says that the power crisis could be less than a month away when summer begins on June 21st. So they're saying that when people start using all this electricity because of all these things, this perfect storm that brewed, billions of people might go without power. This just sounds like the next step. This just sounds like more submission that they're trying to, they're trying to get us to submit. They're trying to get people to just want everything to go back to normal, so we'll do whatever you say, type of thing. They've had hundreds of years to perfect this method, and they know how to control people. That's the big secret. The big secret is how to control people. That's it. Now, how to do that, I have no idea. But they do. Okay, let's see. Asia's heat wave has caused hours-long daily blackouts, putting more than 1 billion people at risk across Pakistan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and India, with little relief in sight. 6 Texas power plants failed earlier this month as summer heat just began to arrive, offering a preview of what's to come. At least a dozen U.S. states from California to the Great Lakes are at risk of electricity outages this summer. Power supplies will be tight in China and Japan. South Africa is poised for a record year of power cuts, and Europe is in a precarious position that's held up by Russia. If Moscow cuts off natural gas to the region that could trigger rolling outages in some countries. And that's the end of the article here. Oh wait, no, it's not. It seemed like it was. But you know why they're bringing all these countries in like this, and they're talking about, oh, outages here, outages there. There's going to be outages everywhere. It's Occam's razor. They're literally going to say, well, we can prevent all of this, and we can save the world from these crises. All we have to do is just form a world government. No big deal. We'll just, temporary world government, so we can combat this crisis along with, the ongoing C-19 crisis, the ongoing, now they're saying that people's right to keep and bear arms is a crisis, but they've been saying it a lot, but it's starting to really gain some traction now, which is concerning to those of us who, love freedom and actually understand what's going on. But I will digress on that one. Okay, let's see. So this analyst, Shantanu Jaiswal, says the combination of war and sanctions disrupting commodity markets, extreme weather, and economic rebound from situation boosting power demand is a unique situation that he can't recall the last time a confluence of so many factors happened together. As we noted in the beginning, it's a perfect storm of factors. Yeah, and how do you think they got to that perfect storm of factors? Okay. Imagine 1 billion people without power. So many people will, they'll die. You know how many older people need electricity to survive? You know how many children, or even just young adults or middle-aged adults or even babies, they have conditions that they require electricity to, take care of them, whether by breathing machine or any other kind of apparatus. So a lot of people are going to be right off the bat. As time goes on, depending on how long this lasts, which we don't know that, and we don't know what's coming after this summer into the fall and the winter. Who knows what could be happening by then? And they're also going to use this as an excuse to move in the direction of getting off of this power grid and into the new grid, the artificially intelligent fourth industrial revolution grid, the one that old Klaus Schwab has been talking about for a while. Ready for this? Henning Gloystein, or Steen, either way, an analyst at Eurasia Group, warns if major blackouts spread across the world this summer, that could trigger some form of humanitarian crisis in terms of food and energy shortages on a scale not seen in decades. You remember what Albert Pike said back in the 1800s when they were, talking within their little circles and their little groups about what life was going to be like in the next couple centuries and how their new system was going to, how it was going to be and how they were going to get there. Albert Pike said, if I could find it, I'll bring it up next video. A series of catastrophic events. They must obtain what they want using a series of catastrophic events. Don't you think that's where we are right now? So many things are happening that people can't process the last thing that happened before the next thing happens. And you just can't. You can't process it. Put you into a form of, it'll put you into a form of Stockholm, and it'll just make people just give up. Like, I don't care anymore. Whatever. No big deal. I just want things to go back to normal. Have your world government, basically. Take my rights away. Take my freedom away. Whatever. Okay. I don't want to read much more of this, but I will link this for you guys because I want to get to some other things. If the U.S. is any guide to the world's faltering power grids, as warned last week, regulators said half the country could experience blackouts from the Great Lakes to the West Coast. The reason is due to the lack of power generation and a mega drought. Looks like the climate engineering is working out pretty well. The pattern across the world's power grids is fragility due to the lack of fossil fuel investments and the reduction of fossil fuel power generation plants as grids attempt to transition to cleaner and greener power sources. It's hilarious. And they're going to blame it on, oh, well, see, if we had these new, greener, and these artificially intelligent new sources and things like that, and we went through with this fourth industrial revolution, then we wouldn't have this problem because it would be self-occurring. That's some crap they would say. Self-replenishing. It'll be going forever, and everybody will have free stuff and this and that, and they make it sound so good. But so did Mao. Mao made everything sound good, right? Before the Cultural Revolution. Actually, even before that, made everything sound great. The people loved Mao. Until he started, taking people out to the killing fields and all of that. But, Now look at this quote. You'll be facing a supply scare every time there's clouds or storms or a wind drought for a week. Whitworth said, we really expect these problems to get worse in the next 5 years. Huh. How do they know? How do they know when, exactly when, a month from now this is going to happen? 5 years from now we're expecting this. They are on a timeline. They need this done by 2030. That's when they can look back and they can say, we did it. Everything is built. We're here. We have full control. Full power, nothing else needs to be done. But the road to get there is why they're, picking it up, why they got the hustle going on right now. I mean, come on. This is literally, I'm not even going to read any of this stuff here, but I will link this for you guys so you can read it. But the agenda is literally flying off the pages of every single news story that you read. You read a news story, boom, there it is. Agenda. Then you get the people that deny it. And you get the people that are so sucked in to the left or the right side that they will defend their side regardless of any facts. They will defend their side because they want to be seen as the winners and the more accepted people over the other half of the population who supports the right side. But those of us who understand the entire Hegelian dialectic tactic that is the left-right paradigm, we would, stand back and look at this and be like, you guys are all morons. You guys are helping destroy this country and the world by partaking in this cult of personality. That's what it is. It doesn't matter what they do. It matters not. And if a fact comes out about their side, they deny it. Not real. But if it comes out about the other side, they amplify it. Both sides are guilty of this, and it always was going to be the takeover by the left side at the expense of the right. That's how it was set up. That's why it is the way it is. But again, I don't want to go into this, but the actual spectrum, which has nothing to do with the spectrum nowadays, is all the way on the left side, complete and total control over all people and everything. All commodities, all food, everything. Land, resources, water, people, reproduction, all of it. All the way on the right side, complete absence of any control. In the middle is where we are supposed to be. Limited government, maximum freedom. Now, both sides exist on the left side of the actual spectrum, which is complete government control. And they got everybody thinking that, people like Hitler or people like any of the old dictators, they're all far right and this and that, which is not true. Technically, they were on the left side of the spectrum. Hitler himself was he was a National Socialist. That's what Nazi stands for, National Socialism. That exists on the left side of the spectrum, the actual spectrum. But yes, both sides today, they each want bigger government depending on who's in power. We've seen it under Trump more recently, where the right side was begging for the government to send DHS troops into the streets to start pounding on protesters and anybody else out there who was even seen at any one of those protests. We see it with the left side when they want big government to come in and stifle the right side and their opinions and their ways, and you can't think like that. If you deny freedom to your fellow man, you have denied freedom to yourself. And most people have no understanding of freedom in general. Moving on. Alright, here we are over at New York Post. Get a load of this. Every time. Chilling images show students at Salvador Ramos High School pretending to be dead during active shooter drill. Haunting images show students pretending to be dead during a recent active shooter drill at the Texas Mass Murderers High School, conducted by the cop's husband of one of the slain teachers. Ruben Ruiz, Uvalde School District cop and husband of slain Robb Elementary School 4th grade teacher Ava Mireles, held the chillingly prophetic drill on March 22nd at Uvalde High School, where gunman Salvador Ramos, 18, was a student. So they had a drill for this thing, and then it went live? That didn't happen in any of the other ones. Come on. Quote, our overall goal is to train every Uvalde area law enforcement officer so that we can prepare as best as possible for any situation that may arise. The police agency said on its Facebook page. Oh, you mean like when you were told to stand down? Just like at Sandy Hook? You were told to stand down? And you listened? Come on. I don't want any of this. So they were told to stand down. They didn't do anything, but they're going to be as ready as possible. I swear, if my recording app crashes when I'm trying to do this, I'm going to be very upset. Anyway, the 16-year veteran posted photos on Facebook showing him and fellow officers posing as active shooters. He's also seen addressing students about how to react to such emergencies. Several students are seen lying in the halls as they played dead during the drill. I mean, come on. If people don't understand by now that, I swear, Bill Cooper talked about this back in the 90s and before Columbine even. It's in his book, The Old Pale Horse, page 225. Talked about how there will be shootings at schoolyards and in shopping centers all around the country, everywhere. So they can foster a sense of insecurity among the majority of the population, and so they can get the majority of people, or even a fraction of them, to beg the government to take away their right to keep and bear arms. And it's working. It really is working. One photo also shows a fake attacker confronting one of the officers who points an orange handgun at him. Ruiz's wife, Mireles, 44, taught 4th graders at Robb Elementary School. Her cousin Christina Arizmendi Mireles said on Facebook. Quote, my beautiful cousin, such a devastating day for us all. My heart shattered into a million pieces, she wrote. A neighbor of Mireles told the Post the teacher was just a sweetheart. Now, we don't know exactly what happened here. And what's sad is every time you question one of these things, people automatically assume that you think that the whole thing was staged for our benefit. Not necessarily. Children probably did get killed. People probably did get killed. This is what they do. There's real carnage. There's real death. But it was not a random incident. It never has been and never will be. And they tell us every single time, oh, how many more of these are going to have to happen before we do something about it? As in, how many more of these are we going to have to do before you guys give us all of your firearms? I mean, come on. Then you get people all up in a stir, arguing back and forth on why people should or shouldn't have guns and this and that. And there's a lot of people out there that think for some reason the Second Amendment was only written for people that hunt for food. Has nothing to do with hunting. Has nothing to do with target shooting. Has nothing to do with collecting dust, which is what mine are doing right now. Collecting dust. It has to do with the preservation of freedom for the entire population. And then they say, "Oh, well, you're forgetting the part in the Second Amendment about the well-regulated militia." No, I'm not. Second Amendment states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The first part of it, the first part of the Second Amendment before the comma, is declarative. It says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Basically, nowadays, saying if you have a Black's Law Dictionary or you have, look up the terminology back then and what those words meant, it basically means a well-trained population is like well-armed and well-trained population is necessary to the security of freedom. And then it says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That one speaks for itself. I don't have to say anything about that one. But that's what it's for. And if we lose here, there's nowhere else in the world